Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. Today's episode, we're diving back into the red 67 Roadster. We start off with a bare birdcage, and we need to install all the fiberglass on the car, starting with the firewall, the floor, and then we're going to start working on this rear clip that has some fire damage. So be sure to stick around. Also, if you're in the area, make sure you come check out Corvettes at Carlisle next week. Dates will be below. I'll be at spot K62 with some new shirts. I'll have a Roadster Shop chassis and a cool little display setup. So if you want to check that stuff out, we're dealers for the Roadster Shop. So there's another video talking about all this stuff, so be sure to check that out. So it's been about 3 weeks since I've worked on this 67 Roadster. In the last video, we built the bird cage on it, and I have a little bit of finished welding to do, but it's mostly done. And for the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to focus on the floor pan and the cabin area. So I have this donor floor pan here that you can see has been cut up over the years. It's missing part of the floorboard and the rocker. So I want to splice this piece of floor on. I think we need to remove this piece of the rocker so we can slide this floor pan onto the car. And while the rocker is off, we're going to attach this rocker to this rocker. Then we'll glue it on later. There's a couple holes. Apparently people like to cut holes in the floor instead of removing the seats. You actually probably could just rip the seats out. So we're going to have to go ahead and patch those. There's a couple marks in the tunnel. We'll fix those while the floor is off the car. And then this piece of the firewall is broken off as well. So I'd like to do all these repairs while the floor is right here in our face. Then we can go ahead and get this floor installed on that bird cage. And then we can work on this rear floor, which I've sat here and stared at this for a while. It's had some fire damage, and I bought some new extensions for it from Dynamic Corvettes. But the floor is pretty well toasty. By the end of the video, I'd like to have this floor pan wrapped up on the car, bird cage final welded, and let's cut this floor up to figure out what we're going to do with it, and maybe let's remove some of these quarters and a lot of the old junky fiberglass and get it thrown on the back here and start mocking up a car. I took another break from working on the car and went on vacation, and these fiberglass repairs turned out real nice. They're certainly cured up. So now it's time to flip this thing over, and we have to prep these bonding strips. This one's still attached, and this one we need to attach. So I need to prep these areas to glue back onto the firewall and to attach to the bird cage. So we need to get both of those prepped. I got to remove these couple little clamps I used. I also, off camera, just put a couple little patches in the windshield frame of the bird cage. Wasn't really worth videoing. It didn't take all that long. And I threw some paint on all the welds and on the brand new rockers just to keep it all nice. And well, you can see they're blue because I had some blue left over from a project on the 55 Chevy. So now let's work on getting this floor section ready to install. And then I also grabbed these two floor sections here. This blue one underneath I got probably 2 years ago in Long Island. I can show the video for that one. It's been sitting in the inventory for a long time, and don't worry, I was going to use it. It just took a long time to get to it. And I ended up getting that down because it's for the next project, but I wanted to get this one, which you can see has the center of the floor cut out here. It's just the outer perimeter, and we need this guy to patch up the back half of our 67 over there. So I'm either going to use the whole rear tub, or we're just going to cut the wheel tubs off and splice them in. Not quite sure yet. We'll have to see when we get that far, but at least we have the parts out here to do so. So I have the firewall installed. I started off by putting this driver side bonding strip in place, gluing it and riveting it, and then the passenger room was still attached to the firewall. So I just put some glue between the windshield frame and the bonding strip, and then I put some rivets in it. It'll also get some solid aluminum rivets through here. So that'll be once that cures up. So I'll let that sit up overnight, and that looks good. That also got most of our floor installed. So now I need to work on getting this rocker trimmed up. I have it fitting pretty close. It just overlaps just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is trim that up, scuff the underside of both of these. We'll fiberglass them on the car first. Then I'll pull it off. We'll make the rest of our repairs, but we just wanna first have it formed to the rocker and to the floor so it fits the shape properly. Now, we did a little bit of fiberglass removal here. This stuff here is pretty freaking nasty. People always give me crap for wearing short sleeves and shorts in the shop. Fiberglass normally doesn't bother me, but this burnt stuff is probably the most wicked. I don't know what it is about it, but this stuff's just pretty nasty. So I removed the old quarter panels first, and I did my best to save the bonding strips, and the splash shields and everything look pretty good. But this original tub is just too far gone. So what I'm gonna do now is remove the 2 bolts that go into these deck lid hinges into the floor tub, and then we'll flip this thing upside down and we'll pull the floor tub out of this. It's already mostly removed. Most likely we'll have to cut the tub out and then come back and remove the flange. We don't want to hurt this guy, but the floor is pretty much junk. So we'll cut that guy up tomorrow. And then I also had to cut these extensions off. This one was a couple inches too short, and that one just had some fire damage. So I have new ones from Dynamic, which come to about here. So I gave myself a couple inches of space here. So this is gonna come out pretty nice. It's just gonna take some playing with and some work. So I have the rear deck for the 67 pretty much as stripped down as I'm going to get it. I started out by removing the 2 bolts that were going through here to the floor, and then I just slowly used the air hammer, a putty knife, and just a panel separator, and just slowly worked my way around. I started in the middle just because it's a big enough panel I thought it would flex and it wouldn't crack this, and I had a really good area in here to get the air hammer and just start to blow this thing apart. So I had to work my way around here. I removed the 2 splash shields, and then this area was a little technical just to kind of get everything to come out of there. So that turned out, I think it turned out pretty good. We got this guy out, old number, looks like 238 with an X. And I just cut this piece out of the way first just to make some room. And you can see we have a pretty big pile here, like a big old bird's nest of nasty, itchy, burnt fiberglass. So now it's time to get these deck lid hinges cleaned up a little bit, get our surfaces cleaned up, and then we can go ahead and start to get the rear tub ready to accept this. So I think I'm done with the really nasty, itchy stuff on this burnt section because we have the floor out of the way, and I did discover there was a little bit of fire damage, a little bit right here and right in here. It didn't go the whole way through the fiberglass, so I was able to fix the bottom. But by the time I dug out this little area, it kind of spread out to here. So I just made a big section. I ground all that down, and it was a little flexible before the layers just kind of delaminated. If you could imagine that there's like 3 layers in there, the top 2 delaminated and the bottom one was intact. The bottom one was actually the painted surface of the car. So I just removed all of that, prepped it, and fiberglassed over top of it. Now it's rock solid. So that's gonna be fine. I also came through here and outlined where we're going to glue the new top on to get that ready to fit. So that glue is all removed. And you saw I spliced together these 2 pieces of rocker. First, I laid one piece down and traced a Sharpie mark on here so I knew where the fiberglass would go, and I laid the fiberglass right on the rocker. I centered it over here, and I put both halves of my rocker down and clamped them in place. I did that to make sure that they are perfectly straight. If they're off a little bit, the rocker is not going to fit very well in the car, so that's the most important thing, that it fits tight. And by doing that, it also kind of made it a press mold in this area, so it'll fit, again, nice and tight and level. So I finished over here. I did the rest of the fiberglass work on kind of the bottom and the top. So I'll scuff all those tomorrow, and we'll pull this floor tight because it kind of sagged in. We'll pull it tight and we'll glue that rocker in place, and then that'll be it for roughing in the cabin. And I also worked on this tub here, removing the rough bonding adhesive on it, and I think we're in a pretty good spot there. I did notice I'm missing a chunk here on the driver's side over there, so I'm gonna have to scrounge around and find a replacement piece for that in my scrap pile up there, so we can get that guy finished up. But I think the next step is to mock this rear tub up on the back of the car. So I finished splicing together this rocker, and I glued it in place. I used the floor jack to push up on the floor and clamped it in a couple spots. And this one lined up real nice, especially the front half, because that's the floor that it originally belonged to. And the back end is just sitting here. I need to work on riveting it to the shields here and also attaching the splash shield, so that way we have something to build off of for the quarter. And I have the whole back area here prepped. The rear deck locates pretty nice because there's this little angular piece here that locks right in, so it can only go pretty much in one spot. I left the deck lid hinges and everything in place, got all this scuffed up, so we're gonna go ahead and put some glue in here. And I marked from here the whole way around. Coat that in glue. We're gonna set the top down, get it clamped in place. So let the rear deck sit up overnight, and it looks like it's in good shape. I'm gonna leave it clamped up for a few more hours just to make sure that it's good and secure, but it should be solid. Now, the deck is attached to the rear clip, but the rear clip is not attached to the car. So the next video, that's what we're gonna be focusing on, attaching the floors together. I have some more repairs to do. We have some repairs inside the car to make still, and then we need to get these little extensions here from Dynamic Corvettes installed, get the deck lid fitting, all that, and get a set of Vetmasters quarter panels on here. There's still some patches to do on the tub and getting these splash shields in, the rear splash shields. So there's still a ton of work to do here, but you can see that we started with a bare bird cage at the beginning of the video, and now it's starting to look like a firewall back. So basically, firewall to the door jamb is done. Now he's got to attach everything. So hopefully in the next video or two, this thing gets wrapped up, but we're getting a lot more parts before Corvette's at Carlisle, so I gotta do some stacking and some shuffling, push this car in the back, and we have some more 3 Roadster shop chassis showing up. So I've got a lot of room to make in the shop here, but I'll be sure to talk to you guys about that in the next video. We have a lot of work coming up. The next video you see will be about Corvettes at Carlisle, or at Corvettes at Carlisle, so be sure to check that out. And if you're in the area, again, make sure you stop by, say hello, and check out Corvettes at Carlisle. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And I have a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later.